Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thanks, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Welcome to Finish the Race podcast. We're doing an episode for the first time up in Boone, North Carolina.
Yes, we are.
I'm hype about it. I have been
Yeah,
knocking loogies all morning.
absolutely.
So,
I've heard a lot of them.
shit,
Hasn't been attractive, but
not really.
we're we're living another day. Everything's good.
Absolutely. We're getting it done. That's what I'm excited about. First of all, I got to thank our sponsors, Mountaineer Brand, as well as Sense by Yaya. I don't have the stuff up here with me. It's back at the studio,
It's all good.
melting away in some mold and some high heat because the
Yes,
air
it is.
conditioning broke.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
But Mountaineer brand, I know you don't have any hair on your face, but if that
No.
ever happens,
Yeah. I'll let you know.
yeah,
I'll come to you. For sure.
absolutely. No, just go to Mountaineer brand.
Oh, yeah.
Use my code and get 15% off.
My God, I
That's
appreciate
what
it.
you did.
Thank you,
And
bro.
if you need to, you blow your bathroom up or something,
Yeah.
you need a good scent coming out of there.
Wow. I'm getting right into it.
Sense
Minute
by
in.
Yaya. Also use my code EYESAC for 10% off there.
Isaac.
ISAC.
That's
That's
my
it.
guy.
Absolutely.
Thanks, buddy.
We're gonna get started with a cookie jar conversation, even though obviously I don't have a cookie jar,
Hey, it's all right.
but we kind of cheated and went in and looked at the questions. And so the question for today, the
Mhm.
cookie, if you will,
Yeah, of course.
are you a better listener or are you a better speaker?
Ooh. I think for me personally, I am much better at speaking and listening, but I've been trying to be better at listening recently.
Okay.
I came in here today in this room with the mentality that I'm going to listen more to what you're saying and just kind of go off the fly and just kind of spark that conversation.
Okay.
But at least like in my history, like with my life, I'm a lot better at yapping and talking for sure
Yeah.
than listening. And it's been a pain in my ass not listening for many years. So, but hey, we
Yeah.
try and get better, and that's all we can do.
I think I think I'm definitely a better speaker.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I enjoy listening. I don't like it more than I like speaking though.
Yeah, I understand that.
I don't mind admitting that either.
That's fine.
But I also say a lot of stupid stuff.
Yeah, you got to be in the right mentality. You know what I mean? You got to be in the right state of mind to like. I have the problem of when I talk, I don't really put much thought into what I say beforehand. And let me tell you, that's a pain in the ass, and that can definitely hurt you and other people.
Yeah, it
Um,
can.
and it's just a matter of recognizing that and trying to get better if that's what you want.
That's true. What do you feel like your intentions are when you do speak?
I guess I would say like just try and cultivate, I guess, compassion in the conversation. Because at
Okay.
least like some of the best advice I've been given, at least recently, was as long as there's compassion in the conversation, you're always safe.
Ooh,
Whatever that means for you. And I've had a lot of conversations in my life without compassion being present. And so having learned from that and like being part of those experiences, I try and move forward with the intention of being kind and just like our family mantra is don't be a dick. And
really?
yeah,
Okay.
and I take that to heart every day of my life as much as I can. But we make mistakes. We're human.
Is
So
do you think that's where you got it most from? Just wanting to show compassion from your family?
I think so. I think my parents, I don't know. It's difficult to describe because the mantra comes from my mother. And if you know her, like, you know, that it makes sense for her personality, and I love her so much for it. But my dad, I think I would credit him with the qualities I have that I hold close to myself. You know what I mean?
Like what?
Kindness, um, emotional intelligence, not very much a quality, but more of an aspect I try to adopt, compassion, empathy, sympathy, and just honoring someone else for who they are.
Nice.
But that doesn't come without making mistakes.
That was one of the things you put down. I think I wrote it down too. You have to make mistakes. And
Sure.
I also added you have to accept them.
Absolutely.
Starting anything, doing anything,
Yeah.
if you go into it with a perfectionist mindset, you're gonna let yourself down every single time.
No. Yeah, of course.
I
I
think
mean,
it's a really dangerous game to play when you're like, I can't believe I didn't achieve this, and then it's just nothing but self-doubt,
yeah.
self-inflicting pain.
Yeah.
It's rough.
It's very rough. And I'm someone who definitely kicks my own ass more than anyone else.
Yeah.
But, being 20, almost 21 now, like I'm at the point where I've realized that I'm human, man, and like I'm where I'm supposed to be in life, and that involves making mistakes. That's inevitable. I can't really control that, and that's totally fine. It's part of the process. But I know exactly what you're saying. Like it's difficult. It's
It
hard.
is.
Yeah.
It's man, it's frustrating too because
Hmm.
especially when you've been doing something for a long time
Yeah.
or something that you know you should be able to do with ease, and then a mistake hits, and then you kind of get insight to what your real mindset is and outlook on who you really are, by how you respond
Yeah.
to your failure.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, and time again, like it's something I've been praying about and something
Mhm.
I've been thinking a lot about lately. Man, since I was a kid, I would beat myself up
Right.
every little thing, and it would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
And looking back, it was always some insignificant thing,
Mhm.
a trivial situation, or whatever it might have been, like sports. Sports was a big one, dude.
Right.
I would lose my shit.
Yeah. No, we all do.
Now I can see how that affects real life
Yeah.
and how I respond to stuff that I do at work or in school
Mhm.
or with other people, friendships,
Sure.
family relationships, whatever it is. And I'll do something that I don't like, or I'll do something that I've been told isn't like acceptable.
Really?
And I'll be like, oh my God, dude, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it takes some time to learn and evaluate the situation to where I go,
It does.
you're a person.
Yeah.
Everybody messes up. It's okay.
That reminds me of what I wrote down in my like personal journal. I think you took some notes on what I said on your paper, but I said if you want to learn or if you want to change yourself, you have to kind of be willing to put eyes on yourself from a different perspective. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You got to be willing to put a lens on yourself and accept the possibility that the not even possibility, but the probability that you're not going to like what you see, you know?
Yeah,
And that's part of the process, man,
it
just
is.
coming to terms with the fact that you're not going to like what you did or like just kind of accepting the fact that and this goes back to what I think you and I were going to talk about anyway today, which is hurting other people,
Mm-hmm.
which is a huge deal to me and something I've become like very, I guess, conscious of moving forward. But it's almost like accepting the fact that as a human, you have the capacity to hurt someone else. But you don't realize, usually, I feel like humans don't really realize the extent of their actions or the capacity of their behavior until they hurt someone else. And then it's kind of like what you were saying, like, oh my God, I can't believe I made that mistake. How
Yeah,
could I have done that without thinking things through?
right.
But I mean, it's just a matter of, I don't think your head was really in the right place at the time of making that mistake. And then just knowing that it's okay because you're human. Your head's not, at least for me, like my head is in 1,000 places at any given moment. And there's a small chance that it's actually in the right place, whatever that is.
Every once in a while.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
once in a while, and that's okay because I'm just here trying to be aware of that and use it to my strength, use it to my advantage. You know what I mean?
Do you think that just comes more from a place of putting others before yourself?
Oh, 100%. I've done
Yeah.
that my entire life. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. And unfortunately, I've damaged my relationships doing that,
Mm.
which is counterintuitive.
Yeah, how so?
I'm not sure because you think that it's almost like if you choose not to focus on yourself, you can justify putting 100% of your effort into someone else.
Okay.
But that's inherently a disadvantage to you. And if you're not in your best spot, then you can't really bring your best version of yourself to that relationship.
Mm.
And that's what I found myself doing with a particular person. It it sucks, and there's no other way to describe it other than that. It sucks. Um, and that experience taught me that I really needed to be in a place by myself where I was comfortable being alone with who I am as a person. And in those kinds of situations where you're forced to kind of go back to square one and your entire foundation, your entire worldview is rocked to your core, and you're just left there physically shaking and mentally unwell, you're really forced to kind of sit with the unfamiliarity of that suffering, and like the unknowability of what's things going to be like moving forward. I have no idea, but take it one step at a time, right?
Yeah.
So,
The being alone and being okay with being alone is so important.
oh yeah,
There was a lot of times where I've always preferred being by myself
really,
more than like being outgoing, going out, being
sure,
with a lot of people around me.
yeah,
But then I also realized it wasn't just that I didn't like being around people. It's like I only wanted to be around people that I knew I cared about and I knew cared about me.
Hmm.
Like that was one of the things you brought up is community and a close knit circle, people you can count on.
Sure.
Being able to be your true self around a tight knit group of people
Oh yeah.
allows you one, they'll check you, you'll
Yeah.
check them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, hey dude, what are you doing?
100%.
But it also like translates to when you are just by yourself. And so
Yeah.
then those influences,
Sure. Yeah.
those voices come back to you when you're doing something by yourself and you're like, with my community, with
Yeah.
my close knit group
Hmm.
of friends, is this something they would support in me? And not that you should base all your decisions on that,
No. Yeah.
but if you know they have your best intention and you've developed a good set of intentions for yourself, you'll know when you're messing up.
Yeah.
And being by yourself is you have to evaluate everything by yourself.
Yeah. Of course.
So you have to develop a good group around you.
We had this conversation like 2 weeks ago when you and I went out to lunch.
Yeah.
The day this was going to get recorded, but we couldn't because things came up and life happens. But you and I were talking about the importance of like support systems
Yeah.
and how like when we're going through it, I mean, which you and I have, I mean, you're older than I am, a lot older,
I'm really old.
old as hell.
Yeah.
But and that's hilarious to me. The fact that you're a senior and I'm a junior and I'm a year behind you in school, that's awesome. But anyway,
My friends think it's hilarious too.
I'm sure your parents do as well. They're very happy about it, you know? But anyway, we were talking about like the importance of community, right? And like friends and family, those people there that are always gonna have our back. Stop laughing.
It's funny.
You and I have been through a few things in our days. I talk like I'm 35, I'm 20 years old. But
We get it. You're young.
yeah,
You're a kid, dude.
I mean, I can't grow facial hair. You see that, you know, like
You'll
yeah,
hit
but
puberty one day.
yeah. Come on, dude. We've had those times, and like in those times when you're not thinking straight, because that's gonna happen. Like you might convince yourself that you're in a good place mentally, just to kind of fake it till you make it, kind of thing. But I mean, in those moments in my life, I've had friends reach out to me and like say, "Hey, you seem okay, but I know you well enough to know that you are not okay, and that I'm here for you if you need anything." And it's scary hearing that because the one hand, I'm trying to tell myself mentally, okay, I can handle whatever was thrown at me with flying colors, and I'm totally fine. But on the other, I'm trying to ignore my subconscious self saying, hey, you're suffering. You're in a lot of pain. And whatever you're doing, you got to stop doing that and befriend your emotions.
Yeah.
And that's what we talk about in communications a lot, which that's what you and I are both studying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you've taken an interpersonal with
Yeah.
Dr. Patty. Great class. Great guy. The reason I'm here today talking on this podcast is because of what I've learned from him in these
Really?
classes. Definitely a major aspect of that. So shout out Dr. Patty.
Okay.
But it's this idea of like kind of befriending our negative emotions instead of running away from them. Because that's the human desire, you
What
know.
does that mean to you?
To me,
Yeah.
just being kind to yourself. I think a lot of it stems from extending the same amount of love and support to yourself that, at least for me, I do to other people. You know what I mean? Because that kind of
Okay.
goes back to what we were saying, which is I think I'm a huge people pleaser. I'm a big extrovert. I talk to anyone. And I mean, you see me in class or on
Yeah.
Stanford, like I'm always out there talking to some stranger. That's just how it goes. It's how I was raised. And it's who I am. And I take a lot of pride in that fact. But, you know, giving 100% of my energy to everyone else except myself, it's dangerous.
It is.
And that's why I have to remind myself when I go to bed at night, like, hey, extend the same amount of compassion to yourself that you are to other people, Eli. You know what I mean?
That's like 3 seasons of Ted Lasso wrapped into
Pretty
a
much. And that's
summary.
my like favorite show of all time. So like,
It's so good.
I'm glad it sticks with me. I appreciate you recognizing that.
Oh yeah. I'm rewatching it right now for the fifth time or something.
Oh yeah. Well, if you don't have plans after this, we'll have to go like restart again. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Might have to. But yeah, that people should definitely go watch that show.
100%. 100%. Very good show. So
Man, that show hits me too
yeah.
because I see a lot of myself in him in the way of him just wanting to make sure other people feel good,
Yeah.
but not really realizing that some of it is him only showing the nice version of himself so that
Mhm.
other people can't hurt him.
Yeah. It is a matter of like kind of presenting that positive appearance to people so they don't have a reason to hurt you. You know what I
Right.
mean? And like, why would you want to show anything but your happiness to other people?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not really sure what that means. Like, if you want to be a negative person all the time, that's your conviction, that's your choice. But at least for me, like I was having this conversation with someone last night, like the exact same thing about, we live on a college campus in a college town, a lot of people, very, very crowded for such a small town, which that's a whole other conversation to have. But I think just as students here at App, we go to campus every day with this appearance and this mentality that we're going to seize the day. We're confident in our walk and what we dress like, whatever. That's how I wake up in the morning. But that kind of begs the question, is that my authentic self?
Hmm.
Like, does that really resonate with who I am as a person, who I want to be? And I have no idea what that means. You know what I mean? I think my authentic self, whatever that is just who I am right now in any given moment. It's a combination of every emotion, every feeling, every persona that you could identify with. And that's just what I choose to identify as is like, I'm happy Eli, I'm sad Eli, whatever it may be.
Okay.
It's a mix of all those things.
I think I see what you're saying. I
Yeah.
also think, I don't know, we're also in our 20s. Some of us
Well,
later in the
you're in our
20s.
30s. Well, almost there, bud. We'll get there.
But I mean, it's the time that's always been known of like figuring out who you are,
100%. Yeah.
figuring out what you want to do. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, that's liable to change all the time. But I think an important thing that a lot of people miss is making sure no matter how much you might change outwardly, externally, or whatever, like you
Yeah.
need a set of core values
Yeah.
that you hold close so you have something to fall back on.
Yeah, of course.
And that was something that I struggled with through probably junior year of high school through
Yeah.
sophomore year of college.
One of the most transformative times
Yeah.
for sure.
And but I also didn't have, outside of support group and stuff, there weren't core values that I'd even established or wanted to.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was scary. I would fall back and I'd be like, wait, what do I even believe?
Yeah.
Do I believe in anything?
Yeah.
Then I would discover things like, end of the day, I just love making people laugh because I love laughing.
Yeah, of course. Who
It's
doesn't,
the
right?
best thing a person can do.
It is the best thing.
And so that's something like, if I can make somebody laugh, yeah, I feel good
Yeah, of
and they feel good.
course.
It's a win-win.
It is a win-win.
Yeah.
What else is better? No, I understand what you're saying. And I appreciate you opening up about that. And I mean, you made it through that and now you're here and I'm proud of you for it. So
Thank you.
props to you, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just always had a problem with trying to please everyone around me except myself. But I wasn't realizing that I was not pleasing myself by focusing my energy on my community, those
Hmm.
around me, right? And it's kind of like that thing where you can't really pour into another glass unless you yourself are full, right? And it's something that I learned a lot about recently. And it was a mistake I kept making my freshman and sophomore year of college. It creates a lot of codependence in your relationships. I think a certain amount, like a balance between individuality and that dependence on someone else is healthy. But at the end of the day, I think you alone are responsible for your happiness.
Yeah.
It does come like impartiality from those around you, classes, professors, whatever it may be that makes you happy. But at the end of the day, it is on you whether or not you choose to be happy.
Yeah.
And there's that saying where, if you always think happiness is somewhere else, then it'll never be where you are. And that's the advice I try and give my friends who are going through a difficult time, which is it seems impossible, speaking from experience, but you got to understand that there is happiness in what you are going through. And one day you will look back and be thankful that you are going through this tribulation. You know, I've come to realize that I think I'm the most thankful for some of the most negative moments of my life because I've learned the most about myself, about those around me, and about life itself in those experiences.
Oh yeah, the dark times,
Oh, 100%. They wake
man.
you up to the good stuff you were missing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, and that's what it's all about.
it is. The I'm the same way.
Yeah. I can sense that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I've gotten to the point now where I'm thankful for the bad times, even like while I'm going through them.
Really? That's good.
Yeah.
That's
And
progress.
well, I think it's also a dangerous line to draw
Okay.
because then you can also start becoming too attracted to pain, self-inflicting or however it comes, bad times.
Yeah.
where you can enjoy it a little too much. But I've gone through enough to where I know it nothing's forever here. It's all temporary.
Yeah.
And so I know coming out on the other side is going to be better. And
Yeah.
so I'm just like, all right, this is this chapter. Let's turn a few pages, see what happens, and we'll come out on the other side a better person.
The bad times I've been through have kind of woken me up to realize that everything is interconnected. Everything is related to each other. And one experience I had to overcome that was really difficult for me personally and my entire family was my grandmother passing away. I was 19 at the time, so not too long ago, uh, about a year and a half. And actually, a year and a half tomorrow.
Oh wow.
Tomorrow is November 3rd. She passed away on May 3rd of 2023. And at the time, I was really sick. I was a freshman, and finals were coming up. I had to wrap up my projects. I had to pack up everything, move back home, see family, but take my exams, get over the sickness, and it was terrible. Like the worst week of my life. And then I got that news from my brother. Called me at 6:30 p.m. on a Wednesday, and I got that, and I broke down crying on the floor of my dorm with who would have been my it's before we started dating, but my ex girlfriend now at the time. We were very close friends. And she saw that and picked me up and just was there for me. And that's what I needed in that moment. But I felt this guilt because I couldn't go home. I was too sick. I had to stay in bed. I was almost passing out every day just with the amount of sickness I had, you know? And I had to deal with that pain on top of everything else. And that was like the most stressful day of my life. But I can look back now and I can see the cardinals in the trees or the leaves falling in the fall or driving down the highway listening to Sergil Simpson
There you
or
go.
something like that, you know, I'll just shout them out or going on a walk through the woods and talking to a squirrel, you know, like things like that.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know that I would get made fun of in any other regard. But once I tell someone like, hey, I see my grandmother in the things around
Right.
me, that shows that everything is interconnected.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have realized that unless I went through that terrible experience that I wouldn't wish upon anyone else.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a matter of understanding that it happens. It's part of life. Death is a part of life. That's what my dad tells me all the time.
Hmm.
And it really has created a sense of compassion in myself that I didn't think I was capable of experiencing again after going through that hell, honestly. And I'm extremely thankful for it. But I haven't gotten to the point where I'm thankful for the shit in the moment while I'm experiencing it, I don't think.
Hmm.
Maybe when I hit 30 like you. Like
Yeah, dude. It just comes with age.
yeah, it does. Yeah. But that's really all I wanted to say about that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry you lost her, but it sounds like you're doing good. It
I
sounds like you had a good relationship and good time with her.
She was one of my best friends.
Really?
Yeah. And I remember the last conversation we had vividly a few days before she passed. And it was just her saying, I love you and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye. And that was that. You know, that was kind of her mantra. That was that, right? Um, and I've tried to adopt the mentality ever since. And she was a very forgiving person, my grandmother. We called her memes.
Called her what?
Memes.
Memes?
Yeah, Meems. Just like an affectionate name that our entire family gave her. She was kind of the matriarch of our
Nice.
family clan, if you want to say that. But she was a very forgiving person and she was very dignified, you know. And I've tried to establish those values in my life when I go through difficult times and I'm forced to forgive someone or be forgiven. I look to the kindness they offered me despite the shit that I'm going through on their behalf,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Like I went through a breakup relatively recently, and I won't get into details about it, but I described the events and the details of it to my roommates or my family, and I found that they were almost more pissed off on my behalf when I was the one saying, hey, like, keep your opinions to yourself. I'm not going to tell you what to think about this particular person because you're an adult and you can form your own values. But I told them, like, if you have anything bad to say about that person, don't say it to me. I do not want to hear it. And I actually had a friend of mine who was talking shit one night about her. I had to pull him aside the next day and say, hey, and I never do this. I don't set boundaries. I'm terrible at it. Right. But I found myself doing this
Yeah.
in the midst of this hell anyway. And I told him, hey, man, just what you said last night, I appreciate that you are there for me and you respect me as a person, but there's no room for negativity in this conversation. Like, I don't appreciate the fact that you were talking about this person who I was very close to, and I still have a high respect for and love for, in that way. And he was like, I hear that, and I appreciate you telling me that because I wouldn't have realized otherwise.
Yeah.
So, and like that all goes back to my grandmother teaching me how to be kind when I was a 5-year-old. You know what I mean? And just respecting other people. It's just crazy how everything is so interconnected like that, you know?
Yeah.
It's absolutely wild to me.
Yeah. It is really cool when you get to see a seed that was planted 15 years ago,
Yeah,
and then it might just be one situation, might be a dozen, might be 100,
of
but
course.
you forgave that person, and then I don't know how quick it was, but you thought back to your grandma, telling you how to forgive, how to be kind.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just like but it feels so close. Like it doesn't feel that long ago.
No, dude. No, not at all. It's transformational
Yeah.
coming to that realization. You know what I mean? It's like I actually put in the work because I'm human. And that means I'm gonna make mistakes. There's gonna be setbacks, but I'm the greatest gift is just being alive because I'm here to
Hmm.
experience that in
Yeah.
all of its glory and its misery, you know? And I don't know. I just feel more thankful for life than ever before. Not that I wasn't thankful for my life or the things I've been given, but I actually have what feels like an authentic gratitude for the people around me, those in my life, my education, which I valued, but it's education. It's so like arbitrary, it feels like, right? But my family, especially, um, my pets, who I am as a person, all of that leads to more confidence in yourself, in your capacities, and a greater understanding of who you are, and who you want to be.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think being grateful is one of the most important things you can do.
100%.
There's a lot of people that just hate being alive,
Yeah.
but they don't hate it to the point. Well, I mean, some of them do, but they don't hate it to the point where they would rather be dead. And so they just choose to live day by day in a dark dungeon, and they just accept that. And they don't think that there's any day that could come that would make them enjoy life. And they just seek out whatever pleasure they can get to bump them, get them
Yeah.
going a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And they'll creep back down into, I don't like being here. I don't want to wake up tomorrow. I just got to do what I got to do day in, day out.
That's what I found myself doing. I'm actually glad I'm here to talk about that because it's actually really difficult to touch on. Honestly, it's not something I want to talk about, but there was a period of time recently, in the past few months where I just didn't. I lost hope. And what are you without hope? I just didn't see the point in necessarily living,
Yeah.
and it's extremely hard for me to say that. And I feel like I'm getting a little emotional saying that right now. So I'm glad you're here with me. But it was just like I found myself walking around my house just day in and day out, not eating any food, not drinking any water, not taking care of myself for a week straight, just kind of constantly shaking, just forced to deal with who I was at my core, with my entire worldview stripped away. And this all sounds super dramatic, but this is how I felt at the time, like seriously. But now I'm more thankful, obviously. But anyways, like I found myself doing that, and you're not really forced to do anything except just grasp the situation for what it is, come to terms with that reality, and accept it. And I think you naturally, after doing that, I think you just begin to move on
Hmm.
slowly but surely. But I mean, it does remind you that in those moments, like it's inevitable. And there's going to come other times in my life where I have to deal with the same kinds of emotions in the same kinds of ways. But now that I have that experience, I'm better equipped to do that moving forward.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not trying to will those negative moments in my life into existence, but I'm just saying that I think I'm prepared to deal with it better now than I was beforehand.
Oh, yeah. And you will be.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you got through it,
Got through it.
which is good.
Yeah.
Proud of you for that.
Because some people don't.
But yeah, a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Um, that was, man, that was one of like that was the hardest thing I had gone through was feeling that same way
Right.
for way too long and didn't even think anything was wrong with it. But I could see other people seemingly not feeling that way and wondered why I couldn't.
Yeah.
Was it me holding me back? I never blamed the world. I never blamed God. I don't know if I blamed anybody but myself, and yet I wouldn't do anything to fix it.
Mm.
Like you said, slowly but surely you're like, all right, I guess I'll take a step, which is the biggest thing you can do is just take one step and
Yeah.
realize even though you may not be far from where you were, you aren't in it anymore. So then you just take one more step and one more step.
Yeah. And it also does take, I think it's important to say that it does take kind of distance from the situation, kind of like a bird's eye view perspective from
Hmm.
things to really appreciate what you're going through and the people in it, even if the people in it are the ones you blame initially for
Yeah.
causing you that pain. Because that's what I found myself doing that initially. But after the fact and after talking through people, and that's how I kind of cope with my stress or any anxiety that comes my way or just difficult times, is I just talk a lot about it to anyone who's really willing to listen. And thankfully, I'm in a place in my life where I have a lot of people who are there for me, and I hope to be there for them. You know, I want to give them the same respect that they give to me, but that's besides the point. Um, but yeah, I found myself talking a lot to a lot of different people, and they would offer me different perspectives. And I think from that, I would just try and kind of cultivate my own compassion from what I was learning from everyone else around me. And it makes you a better person, just unknowingly.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, what matters at the end of the day. The fact that you're taking all these perspectives from those around you and you turn it into your own story that you then share with people who you don't know, but you get to know over time. Like I've known you for a year, and I know you're saying you're introverted, which is why we didn't start talking until
Hmm.
2 months ago, you know? But I saw your podcast online, and I knew we had a couple classes together this semester, and I was like, Isaac seems like a cool guy, so I want to get to know him. And then I reached out to you and we started talking and hanging out outside of class, and I think we formed a pretty great friendship
Yeah.
as a result of doing that. But it just takes that first step, you know what I mean? And it's just putting in the effort day in and day out. But it's okay to have days where you just can't do it,
Yeah.
And I feel like that's definitely undervalued in our society, like rot days, if you want to
Mhm.
call it that, where you just don't do anything, and you just focus on you because it's all we can do, baby. You know what I mean?
I don't, I do, I don't know. I feel like that's more appreciated now than ever. And
Really?
I think yeah, and I think it's becoming overappreciated.
Maybe it's who I'm surrounded by.
I
You know?
think, yeah, I think a lot of people, I mean, like companies do mental health days now where you don't go into work, where you're expected not to do anything, or maybe you go out and you do something fun.
Yeah,
I think most people that take those days just don't do anything, if I had to put an opinion out there. And I think the best thing for mental health is staying busy.
I think so too. I think it's important.
Not to say that you don't need a day where you don't do anything, because you most definitely should have a day.
Yeah, maybe a few days.
Yeah, you should relax, and you should let your body heal and rest
Yeah,
and rejuvenate, and you're ready for the next week.
sure.
But man, I took way too many rot days,
Really?
and I didn't see them adding up until it was too late.
Gotcha.
And it's so difficult to climb back up because it's
Mm,
man, like it's a lot easier to fall down a hole than it is to dig out of it.
100%.
Like I took,
That's deep.
yeah, I had like the hole.
Yeah, man.
I took, I have like one of the most difficult summer sessions in June.
With school?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
like beat me up.
What'd you take?
Do what?
What class was it?
Something financial stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm terrible with numbers.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had an awful professor. I don't mind saying that.
Sorry for watching. Yeah,
Yeah, I hope you don't get him. Um, and then I had another class. It wasn't crazy difficult, but it was still time consuming.
yeah, of course.
And so I was like, I was very busy with it, which I, I did get discouraged, but I kept going. I was like, it's only a month. You just got to pass. Just pass the class.
Yeah,
And then finished the class, passed it, went into the next month, and I knew it was like my month of summer.
yeah,
And I was like, I'm just not going to do anything.
sure,
And I didn't go to the gym in June. Okay. Maybe once a week.
sure. Better than me.
Before that, I was going 3 to 5 times a week,
Nice.
which helps me so much.
Yeah,
Um, July came around and I was like, now I really don't want to work out. I just want to do nothing because I've
yeah,
done something
yeah.
every day
Mhm.
last month that I didn't enjoy doing. And so I started doing things that I thought would be good because it was stuff I enjoyed doing, but it wasn't anything productive.
Mhm.
And those days added up and I started drinking too much, started sleeping too much, staying
Yeah,
up too late.
Yeah.
Just nothing was good for me in that month.
Mhm.
August came back around, and I was like, "All right, dude, you
Got lock in.
you slipped a little bit. Let's get back on track."
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I got confused in only doing things that brought me pleasure, thinking that it would give me lasting enjoyment,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
it only equaled suckiness.
sure. Yeah. That's a good way to describe it. I mean, that's kind of what you were saying earlier, which is like, it's easy to take, like, really easy to take consolation in pain and suffering. And that's what I found myself doing as well back in August, before coming back to school. I would tell my parents, like, I don't think I can go back to school for another semester.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if I was half-assing that or actually serious. It felt kind of serious at the time because I was pretty miserable. But damn, dude, like them making me go back to school and I didn't want to was the best things my parents have done for me in a while. And they've done a lot of great things for me. And I don't say thank you enough, but to my parents, I love you both very much. So definitely gonna shout out you guys. But yeah, I was just miserable for about a week straight. And even when I came back to school, I had a full breakdown one night after drinking a little bit and going out with friends. Got back and I just kind of collapsed in my roommate's arms and I said, I'm tired of pretending to be happy.
Damn.
I am suffering. And they all told me, Eli, you're okay. We got you covered. Like you can show us your real emotions. We accept you for who you are. And that was one of the biggest markers in my life for like seeing people for who they are, my support system. Like they got my back, I got theirs. And knowing that I have that bond with someone, man, you just can't beat that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just authentic, and it's real.
Hmm.
It's deep. It's deeply rooted. Yeah, it's very easy to take consolation in suffering, and it's much easier to slip back, like you were saying, than definitely climb yourself out of a hole. I approached my brother with some need for perspective when I was going through this really hard time a few months ago, and he gave me some great advice, which I found out he later said came from TikTok or Instagram, but I'll credit him with it anyway. He said something to the degree of like, you can go as deep as you want. Like feel those emotions, feel that suffering, feel that pain and that misery. But what matters is whether or not you choose to dig yourself out of it. Like always pick yourself back up. And that is something that I've tried to adopt recently in terms of my mentality, which is I've tried to give myself that space to feel my emotions, whatever it may be. I could be happy one moment and then cry the next. And that's just, it's human nature. It's part of the experience of life. But I'm trying to be self aware of when that's going to happen, what brings those like memories and emotions on, how I can better solve it for myself, where I can go to feel safe and comfortable experiencing those emotions and expressing myself. And then always trying to pick myself back up as a result of that. And I think that's something most people don't do is confront their emotions with the mindset of, I'm not going to run away. I'm going to try and befriend what's happening, why I feel that way, and what I can learn from that experience.
Yeah.
You know?
You had something interesting that I wanted to ask you about,
Yeah.
and it kind of ties into that, where you said embrace fear instead of rejecting it.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Embracing fear instead of rejecting it. I think that really just means understanding that life is unknowable. I think at least for myself, I try and predict what I can and control the uncontrollable. But it's just really just a matter of letting everything go and accepting the fact that you're going to go through shitty times. More often than not, they're going to be insurmountable. At least that's how it seems at first sight. But just knowing that you'll make it through the other side, you know, I think I actually take that lesson from you in hearing one of your episodes talking about how you came over cancer as a child, right? And you were told to finish the race by your
Hmm.
dad.
Yeah.
And one of the first things you told me when we had this initial chat in the library, I'll never forget this. Like 2 months ago was I'm so thankful to be alive because there's just nothing better than experiencing life.
Yeah.
And that's super powerful, and it doesn't, it's one thing to say that and like think about it, but then to experience something that really puts that in perspective and then you can actually apply it.
Hmm.
That's what makes it worthwhile. That's what makes it actually stick, I think. And that's why I'm able to say it to you without memorizing it, right? Because we've been through those difficult times together.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, embrace fear instead of rejecting it. It's some good advice. I didn't say it. I've taken it from somewhere. I don't really know where it is, but like I have a personal diary that's full of just notes and reminders to myself. Um, and that is definitely top of the list right there. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I wasn't sure what you meant by it, but it makes sense now.
Yeah. Well, I have a hard time answering questions. That's why I'm a terrible test taker because I kind of talk in circles,
Yeah,
but I try and get the main point across. And hopefully you got the main message of what I was trying to
I
say.
got you.
All right. I appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you said early in the episode you don't think before you speak.
Yeah. And
And
I find
so,
myself just kind of going off the fly right now.
yeah.
But I mean, that's like my most authentic self. And I'm happy to be here just sharing that
Yeah.
with whoever wants to listen to me.
I
Just,
don't think before I speak either.
hey, that's why we're great friends. You know what I mean? Like,
I think too deep. I think too deep about stuff too.
oh, yeah.
Man, dude, that pisses me off sometimes.
What
Where
do you
I'll
mean?
like I'll take something so insignificant
Mm,
and I'll just go through a tunnel in my head even while I'm holding a conversation like we're doing right now.
yeah.
Like I'm thinking about something stupid right now. I'm not gonna say it because I won't
Sure.
be able to put it into words to where it makes sense.
And we can't release the video if you say it.
Exactly.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think that's but I also like am thankful for that because I'm fascinated by how my mind works.
Yeah. It's
Because
interesting.
I've also felt what it's like when it doesn't work the way
Mm,
that it typically does. Like
yeah.
when I had COVID for the first time,
Yeah.
I thought the worst part was going to be like my throat, the cough, whatever it might have been.
Hmm.
Um, and my throat like was in pain. It was bad. But the absolute worst part was the brain fog I got.
Yeah. Mentality.
My headspace just shut down.
Really.
And I could sit and something that had like kind of bothered me for a long time 'cause I really love movies,
Yeah.
but I guess just because of the insurmountable amount of distractions that we have right now,
Yeah.
it's very difficult for me to just sit and watch a movie and only pay attention to the movie
Oh,
and be
yeah.
locked into it
Yeah. Yeah.
unless I'm in a theater where it's blacked out and that's the only thing I can focus on.
Right.
When I had COVID, I sat down, I just watched a movie. I didn't think about it.
Mm,
I didn't think about what they were saying.
yeah.
I didn't think about stuff outside of it. I just sat and I watched it. And at first I was like, this is cool. This is nice. My brain's never been this quiet.
Yeah.
And then 3 days went by and I was like, it's too quiet.
This is
I
hell.
need some noise.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I couldn't put thoughts together. I couldn't like sentences were hard to put together.
Yeah. I kind of resonate with that because I write a lot. That's kind of what I think I'm good at writing. I was never really good at science or math in high school or middle school, whatever, and especially college. But I just never had a passion for it as well. None of that material stuff. I was all about like abstract, like philosophical concepts. Like that's
Mhm.
what got me going. Like I took philosophy in high school, ethics, a lot of English classes, history classes, that kind of thing. Like I like learning about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because it involves a lot of like textual analysis and writing, which is part of the reason I'm a comm major and minoring in leadership as well. Um, but I had a problem. I realized that like 15, 16 years old that I didn't really know how to express my emotions that well, at least not in healthy ways. And I went to a teacher I had sophomore year of high school um, for my literature class. And she said, I was talking to her about writing. I wasn't really sure how to approach the topic of writing, like what I would write about. And she told me, um, and I won't forget this either. She said, Eli, some people need to write and some people want to write, but you are the
Mm,
one of the guys that need to write. You know what I mean? And so hearing that kind of made me like put things into perspective that maybe I really need to kind of get my emotions out on paper.
yes.
Just kind of sit down quietly and just get it all out if I can. And I've tried adopting that mentality. And I think since having done that, like I am better equipped with how to approach subjects I don't really know how to talk about. I've had a lot of difficult conversations in my life with a lot of different people. And most of those I go into it saying like, hey, I'm not really sure what's about to happen with this conversation, but I've had enough talks in my life to know how to handle another human being in front of me and
Okay.
respect their boundaries, I think. And so like that's why I picked up writing was to kind of like figure out how I wanted to say what I wanted to say, and that's helped me a lot personally. But it's really personalized. Like whatever you want to do that you think would help get that message out, that's your prerogative, like no one can
Yeah.
tell you what to think or how to get those thoughts out.
What kind of stuff do you write?
It used to be a lot of poetry, actually.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like poetry. It's like just song lyrics. It's poems that sounds like song lyrics because they all rhyme. I'm not that good of a writer.
I
Um,
thought you were a good writer.
well, I try to be. I try to be. But I would just sit in the back of class in high school and just like scribble down poems on paper or on like my laptop or whatever. And then it got to be like more like journal entries, like a daily thing that I would only do for like maybe a week at a time. Gave up pretty fast because I just didn't have the motivation wasn't really there, you know? Um, but now it's like a lot of just stuff for class that I find like I take it seriously. Like any writing assignment we have in class, especially like our theory class,
Yeah.
it's hard to put that scientific stuff into practice, but I find myself doing that with our assignments. And that's by choice. Might be subconscious, but like at the same time, I'm making the cognitive choice to like put into practice what I'm trying to preach. You
Okay.
know what I mean? And so like nowadays, it mostly just looks like song lyrics that come to mind or like pieces of wisdom or advice that I'm given from other people, where I just hear like walking down the street that I'll write down. And yeah, it's pretty low key, but it's very transformative,
Yeah.
at least for me personally.
Do you find yourself feeling more motivated to write when you're not in the best place mentally?
Nah,
Really?
yeah, not at all. I find it extremely hard to do anything when I'm not motivated. Well, I mean, obviously that makes sense, but when I'm not in the best mental spot, um, I find it difficult to get out of bed, much less shower or eat breakfast or write.
Okay.
Writing is almost the last thing I want to do because it kind of forces me to confront my negative emotions.
Mm,
And when you're already suffering and you don't want any more pain, then you really don't want to confront what you're actually experiencing, despite the fact that it honestly provides a lot of alleviation
yeah.
to your misery.
It's an outlet.
It is definitely an outlook, and it's one that you gotta adapt to and be willing to look at from that perspective. But yeah, when I'm feeling down, the last thing I want to do is write about it. Usually resort to music or talking to friends or
Okay.
just sitting alone with myself for a little while. So
I do a lot of writing too, but
I figured you were.
yeah. But I also like I'm also more motivated and feel like I write better stuff when I'm sad.
Right.
But I also like it's coming from a place where I know it's going to be a healing process. And like you said, it's just an outlet for me, like pen to paper.
Yeah.
Once I put these thoughts down, however they're arranged in the lyrical version that they are, I
Hmm.
know I'll feel better. I'm
Sure.
like ridding myself of that suffering.
Yeah.
So man, when I'm like happy, when I'm feeling positive, I don't even want to look at a sheet of paper.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you're too busy and you're just too joyful to be thinking about that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I don't
But
know.
I think that's a mistake too.
It can be. It depends how you see it. But I
Yeah.
mean, like, at least for me, I write more in the present. Like, I don't know. I see writing as like two things, either writing like emotionally or writing from a perspective. And I write a lot about the past, not really much about the present and future, which is why I have a hard time when people ask me, what do you want to do with your life? I'm like, I have no idea. I'm 20
Yeah.
years old, you know? Um, but maybe more of a problem for you because, you're getting pretty old
It is
as
a
well.
problem. I still don't know what I want to do.
Hey, you're good. Like, we're here for a reason. We're just talking. Like, that's where we are where we're supposed to be. You know what I mean? But yeah, I like writing a lot about the past just because I feel like there's a lot of wisdom to unpack there. And I feel like I'm able to constantly learn more about myself
Hmm.
based on how I've progressed through my life personally, And that goes back to what we were going to talk today about initially, which is I think hurting other people
Yeah.
and realizing that, but not really understanding the extent of that until after the fact. Like I find that writing for me helps me realize how I've treated other people in my life
Mm.
and treated
Like
myself.
a window to the past.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great way of describing it.
Yeah.
And it's painful to kind of come to those realizations and then there's that guilt associated with it like how could I make that mistake? But then you realize like well maybe I was never really in the right mindset. Maybe I wasn't really at the spot of my life where I was supposed to be at with that particular person. You know what I mean? And it's just a matter of asking for forgiveness and treating them with kindness moving forward
Yeah.
and not holding any like I don't really like holding regrets and I like approaching my relationships with the perspective that no matter how it goes, I will do my best to treat you with kindness moving forward. And it's a helpful mentality to have, but it's also dangerous to have too much of that mentality because
Yeah.
it all goes back to focusing more on someone else and not yourself,
Hmm.
So
Yeah. That's, that's really true what you said about looking into the past and it just comes to you where it's like, oh, maybe they weren't in the wrong. It's pretty clear that I was.
yeah,
And it's not blaming yourself, but you get a new perspective once life goes by and you've learned more about yourself. and you've learned more about how you treat others. You're more
Yeah.
consciously aware of it.
Hmm.
But I don't know what your mindset is like when you write,
Yeah.
but when I'm in the zone, you just kind of let go. And it's like the pen's just moving on its own.
Yeah, it is.
It'll, I'll finish writing and I'll go back and read it and I'll be like, whoa, I didn't even mean to like write about this subject, but now it's
It's enlightening.
applicable to so many different situations that I've gone through.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I've learned a lot too about how I might have hurt people from my past. And in the moment, it just seemed like either the right thing to do, or I can see that my judgment was clouded and I just wanted what I wanted.
Yeah. Same here. I've realized that I resonate with that very deeply. And I think of one particular person that comes to mind where I approached this relationship with this specific person with the mentality of constant criticism and critiquing them in our relationship and our behavior, whatever it may be. And I didn't realize that until after the fact. Like you don't usually see the present until it's already gone, kind
Yeah.
of thing. And if I could talk to this person now, which I could if I wanted to, but I want to respect their boundaries, I would say how sorry I am doing that, you know, and how I was never really in the right place during that friendship or relationship or whatever it may be. And I brought that negative mindset into our relationship. I allowed it to infiltrate and dominate what we were. You know what I mean? And I have a hard time kind of coming to terms with that fact because I feel guilt
Yeah.
associated with it. Like I was a bad person. That's what it feels like. But at the same time, I realized that I'm only human.
Yeah.
Not we make mistakes. And I think I asked my brother a few weeks ago because I was kind of going through this internal crisis. I just sat down and I was like, "Am I a good person?" And he was like, "Yes, there's no doubt in my mind that you're a good person." And he told me, Eli, the fact that you're asking yourself if you're a good person, it usually means you are.
Hmm.
You know, because I mean, I feel like that's something that a lot of people do nowadays. I can't really speak for society at large, but I feel like that's the general consensus is we're just kind of concerned with ourselves and no one else.
Yeah.
Whereas my mentality is concerned with everyone else except me. And I feel like that's a general theme of this episode specifically is that balance between individuality and community,
Hmm.
which is the hardest thing to achieve in your life. Knowing who you are, like I just want to say that if you're going through a crisis, like internally, it's just it does a lot of good just having someone tell you like it's okay if you don't know where you're at because we're here talking about very deep subjects and we don't have no idea what we're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're the two guys that go to
Hmm.
college offering perspective on things we have little experience with, grand
Absolutely.
scheme of things, you know. So if you're going through it, just know that ride that wave and you'll get right past it, you know. Just be kind to yourself
And finish the race.
and finish the race. Absolutely. Right there on that board.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
Best
Um,
advice I've ever got.
honestly, yeah. Well, what does that mean for you? Finish the race.
It means,
I meant to ask you this earlier.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, you know the origin story,
I do, but feel free to describe it.
and
Seriously.
I've told it on here, but I see it in a new light every day.
Yeah,
Um, because man, I struggle with stuff that I'm not proud of and stuff that pisses me off that I still do.
sure.
Sometimes I think I'm going to be stuck in that forever.
Yeah,
And when I think like that, it hurts and it diminishes the hope that I know is inside of me. And man, it's like a ticker and it'll just go off. And it's like, dude, just keep going,
yeah,
keep pushing, finish the race. You'll get out of this. Um, and it's like a superpower and I can get through whatever it is that I need to get through because of stuff that I've gotten through already, because of that advice. Uh, and I also see it from the perspective now of my dad who had to tell his 7-year-old son
yeah.
that he's going to have to finish the race. Terrible thing to have to do.
Right.
And I mean, I can't imagine what he felt in that moment.
No, and yeah, you'll never be able to. Seriously.
Yeah,
I mean, you can understand from a
hopefully
certain.
not.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, knock on wood, but like
Yeah,
you can relate to him in that you experience it as well.
yeah,
But you're much younger and you're a different person.
right,
So you have your own way of seeing the world. You offer a perspective that no one else can,
right.
which makes you a beautiful human being.
Hmm.
Um, but he's older and he's your father, and there's that connection that you don't have
Yeah,
because you're not your father yet. Maybe
right.
you are. I have no idea. But I hope not because you're
I
26. It's
hope
all right.
I'm not, dude.
But yeah, I mean, it's just you can relate to that to a certain extent, but you can't really understand the full complexity of it, and that's
Right.
okay, you know. But that's what builds that like interpersonal connection with him.
Hmm.
Like you two are closer, I imagine, now more than ever before,
Yeah.
because of that. So,
I wonder how much of that advice he gave to me was for him,
oh, I'm sure a lot of it was.
you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, as a kid, I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
It was just what I was doing then.
I'm still a kid and I have no idea what's going on. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's totally fine.
But I didn't understand the extent to how serious it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And still didn't until not too long ago. But yeah, I imagine that. I wish I still had the sheet of paper somewhere. I'm sure it got balled up and thrown away, but it's
Yeah.
still a very vivid image in my mind.
And you have that memory, which is what matters,
Oh yeah.
So that's good stuff, man. Appreciate your perspective on that.
Oh yeah.
Finish the race, huh?
Finish the race. That's it.
Would you ever change the title? Because then it's not.
It's too important.
It's too important.
What
It's
would
foundational.
what would it be?
I have no idea. Just Isaac talks, very simple stuff. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, it used to be the ISAC Yardbird podcast.
yeah,
That came from a friend of mine from the past that was the nickname that she gave me.
yeah,
And then my cousins called my family the Yardbirds.
nice.
The last name Yarborough.
Yeah, of course.
I was like, well, let's make it the full name.
Might as well
Yeah,
go all out.
absolutely.
Don't half-ass it.
Never.
Go all the way. Yeah, yeah.
You got anything else for the people?
I feel like I could talk all day about what I've learned in my life. And again, I'm pretty young. I feel like I'm one of the youngest people you've had on this podcast.
You're one of them.
Yeah,
You're
down
not
there.
the.
I'm down there. Yeah. Are you the oldest?
No.
Okay, yeah. But I don't know. I guess I would just say it's very important to treat yourself with kindness because there's so much negativity out there. And it's very easy to assume all of those emotions, but just recognize that you are your own person and no one can change that. No one can take that agency you have over your own life away from you. And that's what makes it beautiful. You know what I mean? And just like approach your interpersonal relationships with that mentality, which is how can I strengthen myself and this person without controlling who they are
Mm.
as an individual, And that's what I've had to learn in my experience. Like I can't control someone else for who they are, but I can provide input and perspective if they want it, but only on their terms. You know what I mean? So it's all about kindness and just, like my mom would say, don't be a dick. So that's what I recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim
course.
McGraw, always be humble and kind.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always be humble and kind. That's right, brother.
Well, dude, I appreciate you doing this.
I appreciate having me. Yeah, seriously.
Congratulations on being the first podcast in Boone.
Yeah.
It's pretty hype.
It's pretty hype. Yeah. I appreciate you guys. Yeah.
Absolutely. Love you, dog.
Love you too, man.
Thank y'all for listening. This is Finish the Race podcast. We'll see you next time.
Peace, guys.